So I think the societal value of particularly micro businesses and how they do businesses informally is really important, because they are actually quite informal operations. Moving on to the question about accountancy and professions. So because of our impartiality, what we tend to do is we will show businesses how to get a provider from the private sector. I would say, 99% I suspect go to a Cornish business, go to a Cornish accountant. We certainly don't send them elsewhere if we can help it, that's for sure. But also we're very careful about doing a direct referral, because quite often you get in a situation where if you do that, they might not get on and it comes back on you. And so we tend to show people how to do it, walk them through it. But yeah, I think we certainly don't refer out of county if we can help it. Secondary education, that's something I've been involved with an awful lot. So in a previous life, I ran a program called Shell Livewire, which was young entrepreneurs sponsored. It was a big program, global program sponsored by Shell. And I was involved a lot with enterprise education. So schools, universities, very much are still, I think, teaching students for careers that potentially don't exist. That the sort of corporate route that used to happen is becoming less and less and less. So I think there is we have got a program in Cornwall that's working in schools around entrepreneurship, but I think having it on the curriculum. I was involved in writing a report actually for the all-party group on micro business, exactly on this. And the recommendations were, enterprise skills, basic business skills should be out throughout the curriculum, almost going back to primary school actually, because at some point now everyone's working more in portfolio careers where they might spend a bit of time with their own business. They might come out and work for someone, go back in. We all need these skills. We all need to be business literate to some extent. So I think it would be lovely to see that actually central government policy. And the guy who I was involved working with was Mark Prisk at the time, who was small business minister, who was a Cornishman. So.
Thank you very much for that.
No problem.
Okay, so thank you, Jenny. So Stu, thank you very much indeed. We move on to the recommendation phase. Have you got any ideas that we as Cornwall Council could consider to put forward as a result of this inquiry panel?
Yeah, I think so, and I think probably some of these, we've explored and sort of discussed. But I think the main one, and this is very much, this is almost a national ask from all the growth hubs and anyone involved in business support, and that is that business support has to be a coherent and defragmented system. So the more you fragment the system, the more different deliverers you have within whatever the area is, the more it will confuse businesses. Now, the smaller the businesses are, the more time poor they are. They haven't got time to go and look for all of this support, which is why growth hubs exist. But still, they must look at the market sometimes, and go, who do I talk to? Who do I talk to? So the fragmentation of the system really needs to continue. But also alongside that, I think one of the problems with business support in general is that it works in cycles. And again, this is sometimes down to central government policy. But we've seen a lot of iterations of different support, from business link to growth hubs to, to the sort of RDA system to techs, if you go back that far. And there's very little longitudinal, of any value, longitudinal support. So you lose the knowledge in all of these cycles. So actually, you tend to have to reinvent things each time you have a funding cycle. You have to get the knowledge again, because the knowledge goes with the people. So I think a really, almost a commitment to let's have a 5-year plan on business support and then work out how we're going to fund it later, rather than here's the funding, let's just fit it to that, if you see what I mean. And that's a sort of, it's a sort of marker in the sand, if you will. I think the other thing is to ruthlessly focus on productivity, growth is important, but I think sometimes the language puts a lot of people off. I think if you try and get a business to be more productive, that's better all round. If you're going to try and force everyone to grow when they don't want to grow, that can be difficult. I think particularly in areas where you've got a high propensity of lifestyle businesses as well. Lifestyle businesses are fine, but they still need to be productive. You know, you still need to be focused ruthlessly on productivity. Coupled with the above, actually, is probably where we can. We just need to strip the red tape. Businesses we know cannot stand red tape. The amount of data collection and eligibility checks and back office time that actually could be spent dealing with businesses is considerable. Again, that comes with any form of public funding, but as soon as you try and get businesses to sign bits of paper or multiple bits of paper, you start losing them, and they start seeing you're just doing it because you want to draw down your public funding or whatever it is. So I think the stripping out of red tape is really key. I mean, that's always a national ask, you know, in business support. I think the other thing is around, so there's this idea of an entrepreneurial ecosystem, and a lot of work has gone up through people like the Scale Up, or gone on through people like the Scale Up Institute, various universities, people like Babson University in the States, and that is around talking about the ecosystem and talking up what you do, which is it's a bit of business support that is really completely missed. The program I ran with Shell was very good at this, and that's really demonstrating that growing a business, being an entrepreneur, is an absolutely viable career. It's a really good thing to do, and through that you can demonstrate the support available. I think we've got a good support ecosystem in Cornwall, but I don't think you can see the businesses aren't necessarily connecting with it all the time. You know, the fact that we found 80% of people hadn't had support before is quite clear that people are they're outside of the system, and all businesses need to be within this ecosystem, feel part of it, make sure we're talking up the businesses, and you know, people like local authorities, and you know, everyone can play their part in those communications. Really important. What else? Let me just have a look down my list. Oh, and yeah, so tailored support as well. I think the other classic that happens is we treat SMEs as a sort of homogenous group. They're really not. They're very diverse. Everyone's an individual. So tailored support is key. It's difficult. Growth hubs are good at that because we do the diagnostic and we look at what they need, and then we refer them out to that support they need. So that needs to continue to be built on. And I think just this idea around the government only interested in kind of scale ups and growth businesses. What's often overlooked is that micro businesses as a whole, almost as a sector, contribute an awful lot to the economy. And I think in areas like, Cornwall has absolutely got a high degree of micro businesses. I think places like Buckinghamshire actually are very high as well. And we quite often chat with Buckinghamshire about things like this, that it's all very well focusing on growth on the larger businesses, but actually all micro businesses together have a significant economic impact on an area. So you can't overlook them. But it does require very individual support as well. So I think the biggest one for me is some kind of longitudinal plan for business support and a defragmentation of the system. That's the key points for me.
Lovely. Okay, so thank you very much, Stu. It's been great listening to you. Very interesting to hear. I think this afternoon we've had sort of 3 private sector contributors and then one public sector, so very interesting to sort of contrast and listen to the different aspects and viewpoints from them both. So thank you very much for your time. It's really well received, really well appreciated, and I think we've got some really interesting things to take forward into our programme with what you've given us. So with that, we'll say thanks. Round of applause, virtual round of applause from everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely wonderful. Thanks for your time, Stu. Okay, so